Welcome to the show today. We're going to be following Representative Mike Neerman's hearing by the House Special Committee on December 21st, 2020. And today's hearing will be to decide if Representative Mike Neerman will be expelled from the Oregon legislature or if this resolution will be sent to the floor. So we have about an hour before the hearing gets started. So I thought we could kind of revisit a few things on how we got to this point. My name is Ross Schwarzenjuber, and I'm a resident of House District 23. I've been here for over 50 years, and I've watched everything develop, and I'm kind of interested in seeing exactly how this is all going to play out. So to get us started, let's go ahead and see what happened on December 21st, 2020.
Good. This is State Representative Mike Neerman again. So a well-regulated militia, and I think that we hear the word militia today, and I think of guys in tactical gear and all that kind of stuff. I don't think that's what the founding fathers were talking about. What I think the founding fathers were talking about is they were talking about all of us, about you and me, about that not State Representative Mike Neerman, but just citizen Mike Neerman, but he knows how to operate his firearm like that. And because of that, that causes the Japanese in World War II to not want to invade America, because they know that there's too many guys out there like Mike Neerman and know how to operate a firearm. And if so, he's going to run into me. And he might run into me as a member of the regular Army, and he might run into me as a member of the Oregon National Guard, or he might run into me as just Mike Neerman protecting his own backyard. And so that's what I think that they were thinking of when they wrote well-regulated militia.
We have new information today about the December 21st protests in Salem involving an apparent security breach. This comes after historic events played out yesterday at the U.S. Capitol. Blake Allen has more.
A rainy January day in Oregon turning hectic as Oregon State Police attempted to control a protest at the state capitol. The group becoming agitated at police after they threatened to use crowd control munitions and refused to leave. Moments before police intervened, there were bangs from fireworks and people could be seen injured and pouring milk in their eyes.
Okay, Oregon State Police are now investigating Representative Neerman, and he could face charges and punishment from the legislature. Couple his behavior with the rhetoric from Oregon State Senator Dallas Hurd, who Wednesday attended this pro-Trump rally in Salem and called his Democratic colleagues enemies of the people. Because, see, yesterday we talked about this guy. He's Oregon State Representative Mike Neerman, a Republican from Independence. And last month, when Oregon's very own pocket of violent and armed protesters stormed the halls of our capital, it turns out Rep. Neerman is the guy who opened the door and let him in.
Well, the Oregon legislature starts its new session next week, and there's already drama. Oregon State Representative Mike Neerman, seen here in surveillance cameras leaving the Capitol and letting violent rioters inside last month, has now been stripped of all of his committee assignments. House Speaker Tina Kotek has now called for his resignation. Kotek also fined him $2,000 to cover the costs of damage to the Capitol and will file a formal conduct complaint for, quote, creating a hostile work environment. Representative Neerman will not have badge access to the Capitol and will have to provide 24 hours notice each time he wants to come.
I and my men will sweep into your homes, your towns, your public offices. There is nothing you can do. There is nothing you can do. There is nothing you can do. I hate this part.
I want to tell you that something truly shocking happened at the Oregon legislature. A man who is a representative of the people, let some of those people into a state capitol building which is owned by those people.
There's going to be a fight here.
Thanks, and I'm Representative Mike Neerman from Independent. So, yeah, I think there are some problems with gun laws. Again, we're trying to find a happy medium here, where we respect the rights of law-abiding people to exercise their rights to own arms, and on the other hand, we want to keep arms out of the hands of felons and mentally ill people. We have to find a balance there, and that's what we're trying to do here, and that's what we try to do in the legislature. So, so there's room for disagreement and argument on that.
Shots and ready.
I want to tell you that something truly shocking happened at the Oregon legislature. But at the Oregon legislature, this is the shocking thing that happened. Oregon state lawmaker Mike Neerman, are you going to quit?
I think so. I don't know that for sure.
I don't know that for sure. I don't know that for sure. I don't know that for sure.
I don't know that for sure. I don't know that for sure.
I don't know that for sure. I don't know that for sure. I don't know that for sure.
I don't know that for sure.
They all lived in the 16th century.
They're phony. They're phony. They're phony.
What things happened within the building that were so bad? Was somebody killed? Was there a murder we didn't hear about? What things happened within the building that were so bad? What terrible calamities happened within that building after that door opened? Mike, the liberals want you to resign your office. I don't think you've done anything wrong. And I'm going to work around that hole. What terrible calamities happened within that building? Was there property destruction like we saw some of at the U.S. Capitol? Was there a murder we didn't hear about? Was somebody killed? What things happened within the building that were so bad? What terrible calamities happened within that building?
Mandatory training on workplace safety, vaccine mandates, and they want to take away your guns. It's all political. Mandatory training on workplace safety, vaccine mandates, and they want to take away your guns. Harassment, mandatory training on workplace safety, vaccine mandates, and they want to take away your guns. All the power. The Democrats have all the power. This is all 100% political.
I and my men will seep into your homes. I and my men will seep into your homes, your public towns, your public offices.
The cards are stacked against them. Was there property destruction like we saw some of at the U.S. Capitol?
I think so. Somebody kicked a glass door and broke it.
Was somebody assaulted?
And I saw that a police officer was sprayed with bear mace. And
That's
if
bad.
that happened, that's unfortunate. Yeah. Fortunate. Yeah. Unfortunate. Yeah. Fortunate. Yeah. Unfortunate. Yeah. Fortunate. Yeah. Unfortunate. Yeah.
Was the door kicked from outside the building by people outside the building or kicked by somebody inside the building? Because there is a difference there, right?
And it looked to me, so again, I don't know these things. I just, whatever I read in the media, it looked like the door was kicked from the outside. So it wasn't that somebody was let in and kicked a door, but I don't know that for sure.
Hey, here's a 3%er? All right, we got quite a few of those. Who here's an oath keeper? All right, good. Glad to see it. Glad to see you guys here.
Was the door kicked from outside the building by people outside the building or kicked by somebody inside the building? Because there is a difference there, right?
Somebody kicked a glass door and broke it, or whatever. What do you suppose that does for me? She's all worried about safety. It's not about safety. It's they don't want you in the building. What do you suppose that does for me? That imperils my ability to get a fair trial on that. What do you suppose that does for me? Little old Mike Neerman, who'd never heard a fly. Have you ever seen a more epic act of bullying?
Let us in! Let us in! Let us in! Let us in!
I don't think you've done anything wrong.
It's all political.
This is the Oregon State Police. This has been declared an unlawful assembly.
What do you suppose that does for me? Mandatory training on workplace safety, vaccine mandates, and they want to take away your guns.
Leave the Capitol grounds, or you will be subject to an arrest under arrest disorderly conduct.
I and my men will seep into your homes, your towns, your public offices.
Who here's a 3%er? All right, we got quite a few of those. Who here's an oath keeper? All right, good. All right.
If you make your way to Oregon, we will make our way to your home.
I don't think you've done anything wrong.
Make your way to Oregon, and we will make our way to your home. We will travel across the U.S. We will sweep this nation. Power of the people. We the people. We can sweep this nation.
Who here's a 3%er? All right, we got quite a few of those. Who here's an oath keeper? All right, good. Glad to see it. Glad to see you guys here.
Make your way to Oregon, and we will make our way to your home. We will travel across the U.S. We will sweep this nation. Power of the people. We the people. We can sweep this nation.
I don't think you've done anything wrong. Was somebody assaulted? Mike, the liberals want you to resign your office, but tell me why the speaker, Tina Kotek, should resign her office instead.
She's all worried about safety. She's not okay with Republicans doing things that they can talk about. She had the video for 16 days. Have you ever seen a more epic act of bullying? Epic act of bullying. Epic act of bullying. Epic act of bullying. They just wait for one Republican to do something. They don't want people like me in the building. Little old Mike Neerman, who'd never heard a fly. It's not about safety. It's they don't want you in the building. What do you suppose that does for me? Little old Mike Neerman, who'd never heard a fly, that imperils my ability to get a fair trial on that.
Probably saw the video. It got a little bit hectic. A few people got assaulted. What I can hear from just talking to people, they're going to probably occupy this Capitol. I don't think these people are going to go anywhere. So if you guys want to come out here, participate, hopefully this will spark something, not just here, but in capitals across the country, because if we don't take this back, man, we're done. We're done. So we're just trying our hardest to be aggressive in a peaceful way.
So we watched a little bit of the footage of what happened on that day on December 21st, 2020. And it's pretty obvious that people were waiting at the door when Representative Neerman exited the building at the west entrance. And now this video that I put together has a lot of different clips from different time periods. So some of this, what you're seeing right behind me, that was on January 6th. So January 6th was when the secessionists breached the Capitol in the Washington, D.C. And if you notice that every Capitol on that day in the United States of America had these seditionists at their capital and causing violence. And as you can see behind me, that there was no restraint. The rule of law seems to not apply in these cases. So we're really interested in seeing what the legislators will be doing when they're asked to kick out one of their own, which will be the first time in Oregon history that this has happened. So we're probably going to be, if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. I'll go ahead and see if we got anything there yet. And we're really looking for anybody who wants to express an opinion, whether they think this is okay or not okay, or have some other information. And I guess that's what's the most interesting about this is another video that surfaced, which I'm sure there are many, many, many more videos of Representative Neerman doing this type of activity. But let's go ahead and follow it up with the most recent, or a segment of the most recent video that was unearthed by, I think it was OPB. So let's go ahead and check this out.
Yeah, we're talking about setting up Operation Hall Pass, which I don't know anything about. And if you accuse me of knowing something about it, I'll deny it. But there would be some person's cell phone, which might be. But that was just random numbers that I screwed up. That's not anybody's actual cell phone. And if you say, I'm at the west entrance during the session and text that number there, that somebody might exit that door while you're standing there. But I don't know anything about that. I don't have anything to do with that. And if I did, I wouldn't say that I did. So, but anyway, that's the number that I didn't say was. So don't text that number, but a number like that, whatever. And make sure to say what entrance you're at too.
What was that again? 971, just those random numbers again?
Yeah, I didn't really say a number, but if I were to say a number, it might have been something like. And you'd have to say what entrance you're at, but that's not really going to happen. So just don't worry about that. Nobody said anything, and
just random numbers.
There's no there. So anyway.
So there we have it. He, goes a roundabout way of trying to solicit accomplices in his scheme. And it really, even though this video exists, I would think there would be enough evidence and will for this type of behavior to be punished. And I'm just kind of wondering, from my perspective, it's taken quite a long time for this justice to have the squeaky wheels turn. And I'm just, as a resident of House District 23, I think it's really interesting that we should look at the history of what's happened here. So 23 is a rural district. House District 23 and 24 make up Senate District 12. Senator Boquist is the senator of Senate District 12. And Ron Noble is the House District rep for 24. And Mike Neerman is the rep for 23. So what's my history in District 23? Well, I'm a sheep farmer. I was born in McMinnville, raised here in the country. And I've been chasing sheep for most of my life. I took some time off to go to school and get married and have some kids, but I'm still here on the sheep farm. And for the last 20 years, which I've been watching politics of the state very closely, we have been in a gerrymandered district. And essentially, while it technically falls within the limitations of what it's defined as not gerrymandered, essentially voting R's and D's in District 23 make up less than 50% each. So as long as they're under the 50% mark, regardless of how many independents there are or whatever else the mix is, then it's okay to, that's within the margin of error that an ungerrymandered district would technically have. But if you take a look at the makeup of House District 23, you'll see that it goes from the outskirts of McMinnville in Yamhill County and the outskirts of Newburgh, all the way out to Willamina, and then south all the way down to the Lane County line. So Monroe, Oregon is the last municipality in the southern district, southern part of HD 23. So it's very rural, and it is has metropolises of Dallas. Dallas is the largest town in House District 23. And a couple more that are in there are Jefferson in Marion County, and Dayton, Amity, Dundee, not Sheridan. Sheridan's on the coast. So it's kind of a hard district to get all the media going in and to build a campaign. And also, it's been neglected by the Democratic Party. So that really sets up the dynamics of what we're seeing 20 years later. Prior to this being HD 23, it was House District 37, I believe. Representative Lane Shetterly was one of the last ones of there. And kind of my connection to House District 37 goes back to Representative John Schoon, who is a neighbor, fellow sheep farmer. He's a banker too, but he still knows how to raise sheep. So I really appreciate his input and his counsel over the years. And it kind of gave me an insight on what really is developing within the political parties here in Oregon, and kind of the end game. So what happens when you gerrymander a district for 2 decades? Well, what happens is the moderates of the party that rule that district become more extreme. And that is what happened in House District 23. Now, they redistricted it in 2011, and there were parts of Linn County that were removed, and parts of Yamhill County were added. And as a resident and someone politically inclined, I saw that redistricting as an opportunity to actually run for office for House District 23, the representative, which I did in 2012. And the reason I did that is because no other person stepped up to run against, at that point, it was Jim Thompson. And Jim Thompson, Representative Thompson, is a moderate Republican, and the Republicans kind of allowed him to try to maintain control. But when you gerrymander it for that long, pockets of resistance are able to build. And actually, the money finds those pockets of resistance. And in this case, it was Mike Neerman, who got control of the Polk County Republican Party and was the chair and is now currently the vice chair. But as chair, he moved the party to the right and was able to oust Jim Thompson in the primary in 2014. Now, in 2012, when I ran, I got 33% of the vote. The Greens pulled 7%. And of course, Representative Thompson got the rest and won. And that's usually the case. When a district is named, unwinnable by a party, that means no one gives any money to anybody in that district because it's officially unwinnable. So PAC money and all the rest, volunteers, party support, it's already just crossed off the list. So we have 2012, which we had a Green, myself, and Representative Thompson. And then 2014 comes, and Thompson, because he voted against a right to life measure, so he was targeted for removal, and successfully. So he lost the primary in 2014. Wanda Davis was the Democratic candidate, and again, the Republicans won the district, but it turned out to be more radical than the good old Republicans were used to here, like Tom McCall and Mark Hatfield and those type of Republicans. Those don't exist anymore, or they've been sent into hiding. So we're at 2014, and Representative Neerman is elected and starts the campaign for immigration reform. And this is really the model of what happens in these gerrymandered districts. Is the extremists come in, regardless of the party, extremists come in, edge out the moderates, and start getting the money from outside the district to influence policy, maybe not through legislation, but through the ballot box, through the initiative process. And really, that's what Representative Neerman's strength was the ability to convince people to take initiative action. In 2016, it was, let's see, who ran in 2016? Who ran against Neerman then? I forget which one that one was, but I was going against Boquist on 2016. So that didn't work out either. But somebody has to do something, and views need to be expressed, and we need to have debate, and these new ideas need to be introduced. So 2018, I think, was kind of the highest resistance that our district could muster against Representative Neerman and the immigration reform movement. And that's the year that Danny Jaffer became the first candidate in all my research that received endorsements from 5 political parties. So this is like the largest, it was the largest fusion candidate in the history of Oregon that I've seen. 5 political parties. And we still lost. Because, again, we were labeled as an unwinnable district. So there was no money, no volunteers, no energy given toward this district. And when that happens, the other side grows. Then the bad stuff grows even more. Okay, so back to 2016. Now I remember exactly what happened. And surprisingly, Thompson actually changed parties to an independent. And he ran on the independent ticket against Mike Nearman. And he was also a fusion candidate. He received the Democratic endorsement, the Independent Party endorsement, and he still lost. And it was interesting because, you know, he was fundraising up in Portland, everywhere. And if you follow the money, you'll see an interesting $30,000 contribution from Senator Brian Boas to the Independent Party. And then you'll see that money go straight into Jim Thompson's campaign account. So we're seeing multiple parties being facilitating all of this, and everyone knows what's going on, and the money's shifting around, and everyone's expecting, I guess, people to stay in their lane and behave. But when 2020 rolls around, we have a different situation. And Representative Nearman is willing to make some decisions that should have consequences. And I guess that's what we're going to be talking about a little bit more. In a half hour, we're going to have the hearing start. So I've kind of gotten you up to speed on the last 10 years of what's happened in HD 23. And again, it makes we have 4 counties right now in HD 23. It's Benton, Marion, Polk, and Yamhill. And there are probably 7 media markets that need to be covered if you're going to do a campaign. Most the district is very rural, and historically, this district has kind of been stubborn, I guess. I don't know. And there are reasons for all of that, which go back to the founding of the state and and other things involved with that. So how are we going to change this? Even if Representative Nearman is expelled and replaced with most likely an immigration reform candidate, how do we get this place redistricted so that it's not as gerrymandered as it is now and creating all these problems? So when the gerrymandering happens, the resistance builds, and then it spills outside of wherever that gerrymandered district is. And in this case, it spilled over into the halls of the Capitol and stopped government. So that is a direct consequence of allowing this type of gerrymandering influence to, I guess, breed dissent. So I'm hoping that now we were promised that redistricting would be handled this time around. Last year, there was a movement on IP 22, maybe. But essentially, it was that it would give the redistricting responsibility to an independent commission. Now, there are 13 states that operate this way, I think, right now. Washington and California are both one of those states. And essentially, an independent redistricting committee is not the legislature or the Secretary of State, but a group of people who are supposedly neutral and independent of the politics that redraw the district boundaries. And of course, we were said, don't put any energy to that. It's not going to work. COVID was happening. an initiative ballot during COVID, very difficult. And of course, that failed. And then we got the news that the census data wouldn't be here in time for the recess or the end of the legislature this year. So essentially, the federal government drug their feet in getting the census data. So it's going to be late coming to us. And theoretically, the law states that July 1, those responsibilities turn over to the Secretary of State if redistricting is not achieved by the legislature. That's not going to happen this year. At this point, right now, there is a special redistricting committees that will convene, I guess, sometime in September to redraw the districts, and hopefully we'll be able to see what's going on then. I'm crossing my fingers that somehow our district will be carved up to have better representation and not allow this money magnet to exist. And with that, I think we're going to go ahead and take a look at let's go ahead and take a look at that video again and start getting ready for the hearing to start. Okay.
Good. This is State Representative Mike Neerman again. So a well-regulated militia, and I think that we hear the word militia today, and I think of guys in tactical gear and all that kind of stuff. I don't think that's what the founding fathers were talking about. What I think the founding fathers were talking about is they were talking about all of us, about you and me, about that just not State Representative Mike Neerman, but just citizen Mike Neerman, but he knows how to operate his firearm like that. And because of that, that causes the Japanese in World War II to not want to invade America, because they know that there's too many guys out there like Mike Neerman and know how to operate a firearm. And if so, he's going to run into me. And he might run into me as a member of the regular Army, and he might run into me as a member of the Oregon National Guard, or he might run into me as just Mike Neerman protecting his own backyard. And so that's what I think that they were thinking of when they wrote well-regulated militia.
We have new information today about the December 21st protest in Salem involving an apparent security breach. This comes after historic events played out yesterday at the U.S. Capitol. Blake Allen has more.
A rainy January day in Oregon turning hectic as Oregon State Police attempted to control a protest at the state capitol. The group becoming agitated at police after they threatened to use crowd control munitions and refused to leave. Moments before police intervened, there were bangs from fireworks and people could be seen injured and pouring milk in their eyes.
Okay, Oregon State Police are now investigating Representative Neerman, and he could face charges and punishment from the legislature. Couple his behavior with the rhetoric from Oregon State Senator Dallas Hurd, who Wednesday attended this pro-Trump rally in Salem and called his Democratic colleagues enemies of the people. Because see, yesterday we talked about this guy. He's Oregon State Representative Mike Nearman, a Republican from Independence. And last month, when Oregon's very own pocket of violent and armed protesters stormed the halls of our capital, it turns out Rep. Nearman is the guy who opened the door and let him in.
Well, the Oregon legislature starts its new session next week, and there's already drama. Oregon State Representative Mike Nearman, seen here in surveillance cameras, leaving the Capitol and letting violent rioters inside last month, has new session next week, and there's already drama. Oregon State Representative Mike Nearman has now called for his resignation. Kotek also fined him $2,000 to cover the costs of damage to the Capitol, and will file a formal conduct complaint for, quote, creating a hostile work environment. Representative Nearman will not have badge access to the Capitol and will have to provide 24 hours notice each time he wants to come.
I and my men will seep into your homes, your towns, your public offices. There is nothing you can do. There is nothing you can do. There is nothing you can do. I hate this part.
I want to tell you that something truly shocking happened at the Oregon legislature. A man who is a representative of the people let some of those people into a state capitol building which is owned by those people.
There's going to be a fight here.
Thanks, and I'm Representative Mike Nearman from Independence. So, yeah, I think there are some problems with gun laws. Again, we're trying to find a happy medium here, where we respect the rights of law-abiding people to exercise their rights to own arms, and on the other hand, we want to keep arms out of the hands of felons and mentally ill people. We have to find a balance there, and that's what we're trying to do here, and that's what we try to do in the legislature. So, so there's room for disagreement and argument on that.
Shots and ready.
I want to tell you that something truly shocking happened at the Oregon legislature. But at the Oregon legislature, this is the shocking thing that happened. Oregon state lawmaker Mike Nearman, are you going to quit?
I think so. I don't know that for sure.
I don't know that for sure. I don't know that for sure. I don't know that for sure.
I don't know that for sure. I don't know that for sure.
I don't know that for sure. I don't know that for sure. I don't know that for sure.
I don't know that for sure.
They all lived in the 16th century.
They're phony. They're phony. They're phony.
What things happened within the building that were so bad?
Let us in! 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 Let us in!
Was somebody killed? Was there a murder we didn't hear about? What things happened within the building that were so bad? What terrible calamities happened within that building after that door opened?
Let us in! 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 Let us in!
Mike, the liberals want you to resign your office. I don't think you've done anything wrong. And I'm going to work around that hole. What terrible calamities happened within that building? Was there property destruction like we saw some of at the U.S. Capitol? Was there a murder we didn't hear about? Was somebody killed? What things happened within the building that were so bad? What terrible calamities happened within that building?
Mandatory training on workplace safety, vaccine mandates, and they want to take away your guns. It's all political. Mandatory training on workplace safety, vaccine mandates, and they want to take away your guns. Harassment, mandatory training on workplace safety, vaccine mandates, and they want to take away your guns. All the power. The Democrats have all the power. This is all 100% political.
I and my men will seep into your homes. I and my men will seep into your homes, your public towns, your public offices.
Fuck you!
The cards are stacked against them. Was there property destruction like we saw some of at the U.S. Capitol?
I think so. Somebody kicked a glass door and broke it.
Was somebody assaulted?
And I saw that a police officer was sprayed with bear mace. And
That's
if
bad.
that happened, that's unfortunate. Yeah. Fortunate. Yeah. Unfortunate. Yeah. Fortunate. Yeah. Unfortunate. Yeah. Fortunate. Yeah. Unfortunate. Yeah.
Was the door kicked from outside the building by people outside the building or kicked by somebody inside the building? Because there is a difference there, right?
And it looked to me, so again, I don't know these things. I just, whatever I read in the media, it looked like the door was kicked from the outside. So it wasn't that somebody was let in and kicked the door, but I don't know that for sure.
Hey, who here's a 3%er? All right, we got quite a few of those. Who here's an oath keeper? All right, good. Glad to see it. Glad to see you guys here.
Was the door kicked from outside the building by people outside the building or kicked by somebody inside the building? Because there is a difference there, right?
Somebody kicked a glass door and broke it, so whatever. What do you suppose that does for me? She's all worried about safety. It's not about safety. It's they don't want you in the building. What do you suppose that does for me? That imperils my ability to get a fair trial on that. What do you suppose that does for me? Little old Mike Neerman, who'd never heard a fly. Have you ever seen a more epic act of bullying?
Let us in! Let us in! Let us in! Let us in!
I don't think you've done anything wrong.
It's all political.
This is the Oregon State Police. This has been declared an unlawful assembly.
What do you suppose that does for me? Mandatory training on workplace safety, vaccine mandates, and they want to take away your guns.
Leave the Capitol grounds, or you will be subject to an arrest under arrest disorderly conduct.
I and my men will seep into your homes, your towns, your public offices.
Who here's a 3%er? All right, we got quite a few of those. Who here's an oath keeper? All right, good. All right.
If you make your way to Oregon, we will make our way to your home.
I don't think you've done anything wrong.
Make your way to Oregon, and we will make our way to your home. We will travel across the U.S. We will sweep this nation. Power of the people. We the people. We can sweep this nation.
Who here's a 3%er? All right, we got quite a few of those. Who here's an oath keeper? All right, good. Glad to see it. Glad to see you guys here.
Make your way to Oregon, and we will make our way to your home. We will travel across the U.S. We will sweep this nation. Power of the people. We the people. We can sweep this nation.
I don't think you've done anything wrong. Was somebody assaulted? Mike, the liberals want you to resign your office, but tell me why the speaker, Tina Kotek, should resign her office instead.
She's all worried about safety. She's not okay with Republicans doing things that I can talk about. She had the video for 16 days. Have you ever seen a more epic act of bullying? Epic act of bullying. Epic act of bullying. Epic act of bullying. They just wait for one Republican to do something. They don't want people like me in the building. Little old Mike Neerman, who'd never heard a fly. It's not about safety. It's they don't want you in the building. What do you suppose that does for me? Little old Mike Neerman, who'd never heard a fly. That imperils my ability to get a fair trial on that.
Probably saw the video. It got a little bit hectic. A few people got assaulted. What I can hear from just talking to people, they're going to probably occupy this Capitol. I don't think these people are going to go anywhere. So if you guys want to come out here, participate, hopefully this will spark something, not just here, but in capitals across the country. Because if we don't take this back, man, we're done. We're done. So we're just trying our hardest to be aggressive in a peaceful way.
Here we are again, about 10 minutes shy of the hearing date. Hopefully they'll get going on time. Now, I've heard a couple things recently about the proceedings. So how this worked its way through this session, let's go ahead and discuss that a little bit. But Representative Neerman was supposed to come up for the Conduct Committee in January, and that didn't happen. And they waited until all the business was over until bringing him to scheduling the hearing for the Conduct Committee, which was made up of 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats. And rather than going to the Conduct Committee scheduled for yesterday, June 9th, the House Rules Committee created an entirely new special committee on December 21st, 2020. That committee is supposed to take into consideration more than a conduct committee can. So since there were criminal acts and criminal charges, that elevated it to a different committee. And so we are going to see what that committee is going to do. There are a couple options of what could happen. Number one, Representative Neerman could be, the resolution could be passed, sent to the floor, and Representative Neerman would be expelled. It could pass and go to the floor, and the Republicans could walk out again. And that Representative Neerman would remain. Representative Neerman could resign. So those are the 3 options of what we see happening today. So a little bit more about House District 23. I'll get you a little map in here. Okay, so and get me out of here. So this is House District 23. It's kind of this big, long district right here. And if you'll see, here's Dayton. McMinnville does not in the district. Here's Salem, not in the district at all. And here's Corvallis. It's also not in the district. So it's basically, and these are colored to kind of denote which party in those precincts has the edge. And if you notice, all the rural ones are pretty much red, and then getting close to the cities is blue, which really shouldn't be too surprising. But there really should be some way for, all of us just to get along. And we're going to see if that's going to happen or not after today's proceedings. So let's go ahead. I'll go ahead and get that up there, and I'll start setting it up. Okay, it looks like the camera's going to be rolling here pretty soon. We've got 3 minutes to hope they start on time, and we'll see if that happens. Excited about what's going to be going on today, and I can tell you that a little bit about the committee. Representative Paul Holvey is the chair, and he's out of Eugene area. The other members, and he's a Democrat. Daniel Bonham, House Republican leader Christine Drazen, and Representative Andreas Salinas, House Democratic leader Barbara Smith Warner, and Representative Dwayne Stark. So those 6 will be discussing whether this resolution will pass and sent to the floor for Nerman's expulsion, or whether it will die in committee, which I doubt. The latest scuttlebutt that I've been reading is that this will go to a floor vote tonight. So we'll see if that happens. And I suspect that they will want to get this done fast. So that sounds reasonable, and it'll be interesting to see if that is exactly what happens. Okay, 2:59, and normally they start at least 5 minutes late. I know they have those technical problems all the time, so I know how that is. And I'm going to be testifying during the hearing. I'm not quite sure how that's going to work, but will be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see how this works, because I'm really kind of new to a lot of this technology. So we will see once again if we are going to be starting it. It's 3 o'clock, and all eyes are going to be on this historic moment in Oregon history. We may see the first legislator expelled from the legislature, which is very interesting to even comprehend that. And once again, unless we are redistricted in HD 23, this will continue. And I'm hoping that the redistricting committee, or if it does go to the Secretary of State and she picks an independent commission, that would be interesting to see develop. That was scuttled earlier. Maybe we'll all get to visit again during a special session for the redistricting committees, and see if not just Oregon, but if the other districts end up similar to what we're doing here. So one more time, maybe we should go ahead and play the latest from the latest video from Mike Neerman, which will certainly be talked about.
Yeah, we're talking about setting up Operation Hall Pass, which I don't know anything about. And if you accuse me of knowing something about it, I'll deny it. But there would be some person's cell phone, which might be. But that was just random numbers that I screwed up. That's not anybody's actual cell phone. And if you say, I'm at the west entrance during the session and text to that number there, that somebody might exit that door while you're standing there. I don't know anything about that. I don't have anything to do with that. And if I did, I wouldn't say that I did. So, but anyway, that's that number that I didn't say was. So don't text that number, but a number like that, whatever. And make sure to say what entrance you're at too.
What was that again? 971, just those random numbers again?
Yeah, I didn't really say a number, but if I were to say a number, it might have been something like. And you'd have to say what entrance you're at, but that's not really going to happen. So just don't worry about that. Nobody said anything, and
Random numbers.
There's no there. So anyway.
We're going to have to start our meeting off with adopting our committee rules. And so they were posted last night. And so I would like to open an organizational meeting for the purpose of adopting the committee rules. And I'll go ahead and take a motion. Representative Smith Warner. And then we'll have discussion if there is some.
Excuse me. Chair Holby, I move to adopt the proposed committee rules dated June 10th, 2021.
Representative Smith Warner moves to adopt the proposed committee rules dated June 10th, 2021 as presented. Committee, are there questions or would you like a review of the committee rules? Representative Drazen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Could we just have an overview of the committee rules from staff, please?
And I believe we have staff. Could you go ahead and give us the overview of the committee rules, please?
Yes, Chair Holby and members of the committee. So the proposed committee rules have two additions. Section 1 is the addition of a purpose section that specifies that this committee shall deliberate on matters related to the events of December 21st, 2020, and may offer recommendations to the full body. In Section 4, meeting agendas, the second half is new and it provides some additional clarification around witnesses. And then there are two sort of areas in which they are deleted. There's no subcommittee section. And then because minority reports are not authorized for this committee based on the chamber rule, the minority report sections you would see in policy committees, which are sections 11, 12, and 13 are also not in these rules. And those are the changes.
Thank you. Do we have questions for staff on the committee rules? Not seeing any. Representative Smith Warner, I will go to the vote then. Representative Smith Warner has moved to adopt the proposed committee rules dated June 10th, 2021. And we will have a roll call vote on the committee rules now.
Representative Bonham.
I vote aye.
Representative Drazen.
Drazen votes aye.
Representative Salinas.
Salinas votes yes.
Representative Smith Warner. Smith Warner votes aye. Representative Stark.
Stark votes yes.
Chair Holby.
And Holby votes aye. The motion passes and the committee rules are adopted for the House Special Committee on December 21st, 2020. So with that, committee members, a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. Committee members, please attempt to keep your camera on throughout the meeting. For all other meeting participants, please mute your microphone and turn off your camera until you are ready to speak. For those calling in by phone, press *6 to unmute yourself when your name is called. Do not speak unless you are called by the chair to speak. When you have finished testifying, I encourage and would appreciate you to leave the meeting and watch the remainder of the meeting on the live stream on OLIS, helping with our bandwidth and reception. Thank you. Please do not type comments or post material in the chat box. If you are having audio or visual issues or have another need related to the hearing, please contact the committee analyst by email. Her address is in the chat box. If a participant does not follow these instructions or is disruptive in any way, I will direct committee staff to mute the participant's microphone. If the participant continues to disregard these instructions and are disruptive, I will direct staff to remove them from the meeting. For the general public here to testify, be prepared to keep your comments to 3 minutes. And you will hear a beep go off when your 3 minutes are up, and I will prompt you to conclude your remarks. So with that, Ms. Nordlund, is there any other housekeeping or committee information we need to go over before we proceed?
Mr. Chair, you covered everything. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, then, I am going to open a public hearing on House Resolution 3, which is a resolution to expel Representative Neerman from the House of Representatives. Could we have just a brief summary of that?
Mr. Chair and committee members, House Resolution 3 finds that Representative Mike Neerman engaged in disorderly behavior within the meaning of Article 4, Section 15 of the Oregon Constitution. The resolution resolves that with the occurrence of 2/3 of the members of the House of Representatives, the Representative Mike Neerman be expelled from the House of Representatives and that Representative Neerman's seat be considered vacant. Thank you.
And thank you. I appreciate that. And I have a little introductory scope and purpose statement to start with on the agenda. And then I will discuss some exhibits that I have submitted on OLIS and go through that. We will then provide an opportunity for Representative Neerman and or his attorney to testify. And then we will open up the public hearing to the general public, which will be time limited at 3 minutes. And I do plan on a time certain of ending that public hearing and moving to a work session after that, should the committee want to pursue that immediately. So with that, I will say that the purpose of today's hearing is to determine whether events that will be presented to us constitute disorderly behavior for which expulsion of a member is appropriate. Article 4, Section 15 of the Oregon Constitution authorizes the House of Representatives to punish a member of the House for disorderly behavior, including with expulsion, if 2/3 of the members of the House concur. Article 4, Section 15 is in the Constitution to enable the legislature to uphold and safeguard its integrity and reputation. That is why the concept of disorderly behavior is not a defined technical term, but instead a determination that we make as an entire House when we weigh whether certain conduct imperils the integrity and reputation of the House to function as a deliberative, representational, and fair lawmaking body for the people of Oregon. We have a measure before us, House Resolution 3, that proposes a finding of disorderly behavior and a recommendation of expulsion with regards to the conduct of Representative Mike Neerman on and around December 21st, 2020. Our task today is not to conduct a trial, but rather to consider the merits of House Resolution 3 and decide whether or not to make the kind of determination I've just described and forward House Resolution 3 to the floor with a be adopted recommendation. Thank you. From there, I will go ahead and move to some exhibits, and I'd like to provide for the committee to consider. It's impossible to overstate the seriousness of the reason we are here today. The gravity of this committee's charge should not be lost on any of us. We are here today under the authority of Article 4, Section 15 of the Oregon Constitution, which states either house may punish its members for disorderly behavior and may, with the concurrence of 2/3, expel a member, but not a second time for the same cause. Over the next several moments, I will present multiple exhibits documenting the conduct and involvement of Representative Mike Neerman's disorderly behavior related to December 21st, 2020. Representative Neerman enabled armed violent protesters to enter the Capitol, breaching the security of the Capitol, which was officially closed to the public, and also endangered the authorized staff and legislators inside the building. As a reminder, on December 21st, 2020, the legislature met in a special session in order to vote on a final package of COVID relief bills before the new year. As has been the case since the start of the COVID pandemic, the Capitol was open only to authorized personnel following guidance from the Oregon Health Authority, the Oregon Health Science University, and regulations from Oregon OSHA. Committee work was done remotely with limited time spent on the floor in order to limit the potential for virus transmission. The special session, like the full session we're currently in, was conducted in accordance with the Oregon Constitution's requirement for openness and transparency. On the morning of December 21st, a couple of hundred protesters, some of them heavily armed and wearing body armor, arrived at the Capitol for a protest with the intent to illegally enter and presumably occupy the building and interrupt the proceedings of the Oregon legislature. They carried a variety of signs, including some calling for the arrest of Governor Brown. Just before 8:30 a.m., Representative Mike Neerman left the House floor, walked to the west ADA entrance of the Capitol, and opened the door and allowed the armed protesters to enter the building. They quickly began engaging in violence against state troopers, as you'll see. That included the use of bear mace against troopers, causing them to fall back and allowing protesters to come further into the building. Had law enforcement not stepped in so quickly, we can only imagine how disastrous the results would have been. The video is a few minutes long, colleagues, but I believe it's important to watch it all with our own eyes. I want to flag here that these videos contain some violence and could be re-traumatizing for some watching. If we could go ahead and have Exhibit A, please, and we'll watch the video. Thank you. And could we go to the next Exhibit B? Exhibit B shows the pathway and where this happened, and the red arrows indicate Representative Neerman's travels outside of the building, where he, about 6 minutes later, after chatting with some protesters outside, he returned to the building through the west entrance on the State Street side, as you can follow the arrows. Just for reference on where this happened, mostly on the west side of the building. In all of this happening, and while the House of Representatives was conducting business on the House floor, and while the protesters were violently confronting the state police as they were trying to gain entry to the building. Thankfully, Oregon State Police were able to contain and then eventually remove the rioters who entered the building by closing off the vestibule area outside of the rotunda. But the clashes continued throughout the day, including attacks on journalists outside the Capitol. Eventually, 4 people were arrested for their actions that day. What was the goal of the protesters? In the words of a protest organizer, Joey Gibson of the group Patriot Prayer, it was to occupy the Capitol. So could we have Exhibit C, please?
I just want to give you guys a quick update of what's going on out here. So basically, people try to attempt to enter the Capitol, which is their Oregon State constitutional right. They cannot have closed meetings here. As a lot of you guys probably saw the video, it got a little bit hectic. A few people got assaulted. Everyone's kind of fine. Basically, a lot of patriots are coming in here right now. And from what I understand and from what I can hear from just talking to people, they're going to probably occupy this Capitol. I don't think these people are going to go anywhere. So if you guys want to come out here, participate, maybe bring some equipment, food, water, or whatever. I do know that there's a chef coming down here. He's going to cook a bunch of stuff. But this is just happening right now. So I'm just kind of trying to figure out what's going on. And that hopefully this will spark something, not just here, but in capitals across the country. Because if we don't take this back, man, we're done. We're done. So we're just trying our hardest to be aggressive in a peaceful way. God bless you guys.
For those in the Capitol, it was a frightening day. Armed protesters yelled angry personal threats at legislators through windows, promising to find out where they lived. Protesters attempted to break into the building, including using nearby construction equipment to bash in a glass door. In total, the attacks caused well over $2,000 worth of damage. Staff and legislators were terrified. We can only speculate what would have happened if they were able to get all the way in. It wasn't long before it became apparent that Representative Neerman had been the one to open the door to let the protesters in. After all, it was all on video. The questions then became, were his actions intentional? Were they premeditated? And were they done in coordination with violent protesters, other individuals, or organizations? A couple of weeks later, Patriot Prayer's Joey Gibson revealed on Parler that a state rep opened that door for us. Not someone happened to exit the door and we were able to sneak in, but a state rep opened the door for us. So could we have Exhibit E, please?
In Salem, the Oregon State Capitol, a few weeks ago, we did attempt entry, but we had the legal constitutional right to be in there during that meeting. And we had a state rep, let me remind you, a state rep opened that door for us, okay? Because we had a legal right to be in there. Now, a lot of things went down. Some people acted better than others, whatever. That's a situation you get with groups. But I want to explain something to you.
Thank you. I guess that was an excerpt from Joey Gibson again. And then, of course, it was only last week that we learned there was, all this time, a confession of sorts from Representative Neerman. On December 16th, 2020, just 5 days before the events at the Capitol, Neerman explained something he called Operation Hall Pass. He described how he would enable protesters to enter the Capitol illegally by texting him personally and be waiting for the door to be opened for them. If we could have Exhibit F, please.
I won't meet with you. I just don't think anybody would say that.
I have a question. If the COVID restrictions affecting people coming in to meet with the.
Yes, the Capitol's closed, and so you can't come to the Capitol.
So
Yeah.
the only real way we have is to come to the Capitol.
Yeah.
And show our faces, because
Yep.
you can't come into
Yep.
your office.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's it. And you
can't
can,
always get replies. I had one of the PCT sent a representative an email, asking questions. And then when it came up, we got the same ability as to know that when the legislative meets. What if there's an emergency legislative meeting? Well, so she messaged me back the next day and said, hey, there's an emergency legislative meeting. What are you gonna do? That was Monday or Tuesday. This is what?
Yep.
Wednesday or Thursday.
So we're talking about-
Wednesday.
we're talking about-
But you know what I mean? Like, you can't, so
yeah, we're talking about setting up Operation Hall Pass, which I don't know anything about. And if you accuse me of knowing something about it, I'll deny it. But there would be some person's cell phone, which might be. But that was just random numbers that I screwed up. That's not anybody's actual cell phone. And if you say, I'm at the west entrance during the session and text to that number there, that somebody might exit that door while you're standing there. I don't know anything about that. I don't have anything to do with that. And if I did, I wouldn't say that I did. So, but anyway, that's, the number that I didn't say was. So don't text that number, but a number like that, whatever. And, make sure to say what entrance you're at too.
what was that again? 971, just those random numbers? again?
Yeah, I didn't really say a number, but if I were to say a number, it might have been something like. And you'd have to say what entrance you're at, but that's not really gonna happen, so just don't worry about that. Nobody said anything and.
Just random numbers.
There's no.
And for the record, my understanding, the number that Representative Neerman spoke to and recited more than once in this was his own cell phone number. Just days ago, I'll go ahead and move to the next Exhibit G. Representative Neerman appeared on Lars Larson, a radio show, and admitted it yet again.
All right, let's go to the video. The video I played the audio from a few moments ago is you speaking in December, I think about the 15th or 16th of December, and you're talking to a group, and you said, there might be somebody's phone number, which might be, and then you gave your cell phone number, but that's just random numbers. And if you say, I'm at the west entrance, there might be somebody who might exit the door while you're standing there. What was going on there?
Yeah, so I'm kind of clowning around and being a little bit flippant there and all that kind of stuff. But the group that I was speaking to is Oregon Citizens Lobby, and Oregon Citizens Lobby is not violent terrorists, and honestly, it's mostly blue-haired old ladies. And no offense to blue-haired old ladies, but these are just legislative nerds that are there to impact the process and do that. And so we have a thing every year, not this year, but we've had a thing where we have a war room where we invite people down to the Capitol, and we have lectures where we teach them about civics and everything like that, and how to interact with the legislature. And then we actually can go do it because we're down there in the Capitol, and so you can go visit your legislator and find out who they are and find out what they think and all that. So it was a thing to Oregon Citizens Lobby. But yeah, I did say that, and so I think that
did that tie into your actions on the 21st?
Yeah. So I think that video was me kind of setting up the 21st, I think.
Colleagues, for just any normal layperson to look at these videos, listen to this, I think it couldn't be any clearer. Representative Mike Neerman intentionally allowed armed protesters or occupiers to illegally enter the building during the peak of the pandemic. He coordinated with his supporters and extremist groups and then opened a door to let them in, leading to attacks and injury of state troopers, destruction of Capitol property, and trauma for many of those in the building that day. He has been criminally charged by the Marion County District Attorney with official misconduct in the first degree and criminal trespass in the second degree. The charging document is posted on OLIS if anyone would like to read it. Colleagues, it is my preference for the committee members to hold their questions and remarks of general nature for the work session after the public hearing if we need to clarify process or any other matters like that. Representative Neerman and his attorney have been given formal and informal notice, both of these proceedings, and an invitation to make his case to the House and the public. I'll now turn to Representative Neerman or his attorney for his opportunity to be heard.
Thank you, Chair Holvey. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Good, thank you. And Chair Holvey and members of the committee, I'm just going to make a statement here, and then on advice of my attorney, I'm not going to be answering any questions. We're all entitled to our opinions, but we're not entitled to our own facts. This resolution is before you today in consideration based on the allegations of fact in the resolution, which are simply not true. The fact is that on December 21st last year, the Legislative Assembly meant to consider the public's business. The fact is that the Legislative Assembly was closed to the public. The fact is that the Oregon Constitution guarantees the public the right to instruct their representatives. The fact is that the Oregon Constitution requires the Legislative Assembly to conduct its proceedings in public. The fact is that I exited the building and members of the public entered into the Capitol building, a place they had a right to be, a place the Legislative Assembly had no right to exclude them from. The people who entered the Capitol building on December 21st had a right to be in the building. This is an undeniable fact. The Oregon Constitution could not be more clear. What's equally true is this: the Legislative Assembly was wrong to exclude the public. Expelling me from the Legislative Assembly does not suddenly make the legislative leadership's decision to exclude the public and make decisions out of public view right or just or constitutional. People were angry on December 21st, and for good reason. The legislative leadership was trying to keep the public out of a process that is meant to be conducted in full view and participation of the public. If the speaker and others were worried about their safety, there was a simple solution: do not violate the constitutional right of Oregonians and simply open the building. I found in my experience that Oregonians do not tend to like it when politicians violate their constitutional rights. The system is broken. People were and still are angry. People were angry on December 21st and are angry today on June 10th. Expelling me will not change that. Expelling me will not make the building any safer. What will make everyone safer is if legislative leadership, beginning with the Speaker and the Senate President, admit that what happened in this building on December 21st was wrong and never should have happened. They never should have excluded the public from the public's building. They should have never made decisions behind closed doors, out of the public's view. They should accept responsibility for their decision to violate the constitutional rights of millions of Oregonians and admit their mistake. Of course, we all know that neither the Speaker nor the Senate President, or even the six of you on this committee, will accept any responsibility. Instead, you'll point the finger at me and say, you let those angry people into this building. It's your fault. Again, I ask the question, why were they angry? They wanted to be part of a process which you intentionally excluded them from. I would be angry too. We talk a lot about leadership in this building. Leadership is the ability, the willingness to demonstrate courage and strength in the face of tremendous outside pressure. I know you've all made your decision. This has not been a fair process. There have been leaks of information. The media have used every breathless adjective to stack the case against me. The process has been hijacked. Not surprisingly, politics, not doing what is right, is what is going to decide the outcome. The public pressure is immense. The easy thing to do is expel me. I suspect that's what you're going to do. But then again, to be clear, I'm being expelled for letting the public into the public's building while the legislature was conducting the public's business. Those are the facts. Thank you. And I, like I said, on advice of my attorney, I won't be answering any questions. So.
Thank you, Representative Neerman. I must disagree with your conclusions. And that's, of course, everybody can disagree. I do not believe because you disagree, it gives you the right to take the rules and laws into your own hand and make those decisions and endanger other people, this Capitol, this institution. I don't know what you were thinking when you did this, or what you intended or thought would happen once this armed crowd of angry people were led into the Capitol to occupy it, and what would the consequences of that action be. I'm dismayed that you won't answer questions, but I respect your right not to answer questions and your position on that. So with that, I'm going to move on to the public hearing, and we will hear from some members of the public who wanted to testify in today's hearing. So we are going to begin by taking testimony for those who registered today. We are going to ask testifiers to keep their comments to 3 minutes, as I previously stated. Committee staff will use a timer that will beep when your time is up, and when you hear that beep, you need to wrap up really quickly, and so others will have the opportunity to speak. Please keep your comments civil, respectful, and relevant to House Resolution 3. Legislators who have registered to testify will be given an opportunity to speak first, as is customary, but their time will also be limited to 3 minutes. I will check with staff. I do not believe we have any legislators signed up to testify. Is that the case?
That's correct, Mr. Chair. No legislators signed up.
Thank you. Then we're going to start off with Janera Brannigan.
And Mr. Chair, I'll let you know, I do not see her name or her phone number in the meeting.
Well, thank you. Then we will move on to Valerie Seferin. Serafin?
Same case there, Mr. Chair. I don't see her name or phone number in the meeting.
How about Casey Kula?
All right, can you hear me? Thank you, Chair.
Yes, we can. And if you would just introduce yourself with your name for the record before you start. Thank you.
Absolutely. I'm Casey Kula, and I'm a resident of rural Dayton, so House District 23. And Chair and members of the committee, thank you for your time today. As both a Yamhill County Commissioner and a resident of House District 23, I ask you to vote to move the resolution to expel Representative Neerman to the floor of the House. It's the right thing to do for both staff safety and for our democracy. Please hold Representative Neerman accountable for his actions. And as you're aware, this is an historic vote for a simple coordinated act to disrupt Oregon's democratic process. This should be a somber undertaking, and I'm glad to see you taking it seriously. Thank you. I realize that you are likely to vote to expel, so my ask today is that you work diligently to ensure that the House vote is unanimous. We have so much that divides us, and we're all so good at demonizing each other. I'm saying that as me. So this is your opportunity to work together. You show Oregonians by your unanimity, by your vote, you agree that this was wrong. Your actions and those of your colleagues tonight will be the start of healing this great state of ours. Lord knows we could use some healing. So thank you for your time, and I appreciate your service.
Thank you very much for your testimony. And up next, I have Robert Davis.
Mr. Chair, I do not see his name or his number in the meeting.
I will move on to Daniel Jaffer.
Thank you. Hello and good afternoon. My name is Daniel Jaffer, Danny Jaffer. I'm a constituent of House District 23, have been since its current inception. I live just south of lovely Independence. In full disclosure, I was the Democratic nominee for this House seat in 2018, running against the subject person of today's hearing. Thank you for allowing me to participate today. And thank you to Chair Holvey, House Minority Leader Drazen, Majority Leader Smith-Warner, and the other distinguished members of the committee for accepting and persevering with this odious task. I know that it cannot be an enjoyable endeavor. I speak today in support of the resolution HR 3 to find Representative Mike Neerman, House District 23, engaged in disorderly behavior and expel him from the Oregon legislature. This office belongs to the residents of HD 23, not him. It is clear by his actions that Mr. Neerman cannot represent district constituents within the bounds of the law. He has sullied our district, the greater House body, and our democracy with his willful and wanton disregard of statute, the Constitution, and his oath. And he therefore is not fit to remain in office. There is already a determination by independent investigation that Mr. Neerman more likely than not intentionally assisted in and thereby was responsible for the breach of the state capitol building on December 21st, 2020. This malfeasance on the part of an elected representative is bad enough. But we now know, based on video and audio evidence obtained last week, that Mr. Neerman was more than just a player in this act. He was, it appears, a conspirator and an instigator in the violent action against democracy that took place in December of last year, placing all of his fellow legislators, their staff, and Capitol building employees in danger. Mr. Neerman committed this dangerous and selfish deed simply because he felt that he knew better about what was good for the people than did the governor and 89 other legislators conducting business in the building at that time. I was born and raised in Oregon. In 60 years here, I cannot recall a more dangerous and egregious act plotted and carried out against the democratic elected government of the state and its citizens by an elected official, and certainly not by a member of the Oregon legislature. And in my study of history, any time before that, you are all aware that this is an unprecedented and deeply serious matter. I am a retired naval officer. I swore a solemn oath to support and defend the Constitution. That oath is sacred to me, even now, years after leaving service. I still believe in upholding that oath. As with all the members here, Mr. Neerman swore a very similar oath when sworn in as an Oregon State Representative. It is clear that Mr. Neerman has broken that oath with his conspiracy to allow invaders into our state capitol. Had I ever done anything like that in the military, I would have been court-martialed. It's called treason. I hope that people can see how dangerous and pernicious his actions were, and are, both physically and ideologically.
Thank you, Mr. Jaffer. Appreciate your testimony.
Thank you very much.
Up next, I have Ross Schwartzendruber.
Yes. Hello, Chair Holvey and House Special Committee on December 21st, 2020 members. My name is Ross Schwartzendruber, and I've lived in rural Polk County for more than 50 years and was Democratic candidate for House District 23 in 2012. I'm testifying today in support of House Resolution 3, which resolves that Representative Mike Neerman engaged in disorderly behavior and should be expelled from the Oregon legislature. First, I would like to offer some historical context of the current proceedings. Political violence has always been a part of Oregon politics. secret groups like the Know Nothings, Knights of the Golden Circle, Salem Clique, and the Ku Klux Klan jostled for control of Oregon using violence, threats, dishonesty to create a white utopia. Representative Neerman and his supporters are merely continuing this pattern. How did Oregonians deal with these groups in the past? Viva voce, the requirement to vote publicly, ended secret ballots and the Know Nothings influence. Tensions between the Salem Clique and the Knights of the Golden Circle likely contributed to the state capitol being burned to the ground in 1855 and the legislature moving to Corvallis. After 3 ballots, voters approved returning the capital to Salem. In 1896, the tensions with the Knights of the Golden Circle continued during the Civil War, forcing Union soldiers to guard Oregon ballot boxes. In 1896, Silver Republicans and their coalition walked out of the legislative session for 40 days to thwart the appointment of John Mitchell to the U.S. Senate. During the 1920s, the Ku Klux Klan forced their way into politics in both parties. In the 50s and 60s saw the growth and influence of the John Birch Society on Oregon politics. Now, in the 21st century, the cycle continues. This time, gerrymandering in District 23 for the past 20 years allowed this movement to grow. And what happens in District 23 doesn't stay in District 23. Please approve H.R. 3, expel Representative Neerman, and create a fair redistricting of House District 23 so this doesn't happen again.
Up next, I have Janice Dysinger.
Thank you, Chair Holvey. Honorable Chair Holvey and committee members, I hope you can hear me okay.
Yes.
My name is Janice Dysinger. Our state capitol is locked and out of reach of the people. There's no real access, only electronic means of access, which are easily deleted. The capitol is supposed to be open to the people during the session. It's guaranteed by the Oregon Constitution. The legislature has denied our access to the capitol. The governor has enacted all kinds of restrictions, taking away our rights. This is a threat to us. COVID was bad, but this is worse. People are upset about these actions, and it's no small thing. People are leaving Oregon en masse. We all know people who've moved away. They're voting with their feet, going to sane states where they can recover and have their rights restored. I support Mike Neerman. He stands with the people, and he loves Oregon's Constitution. The Oregon Constitution is broken every single day the legislature is in session, every single day. We are not being truly represented. It feels like an iron fist over us. This builds a great deal of frustration that never needed to be there. We need to open the capitol to the people. You know, Antifa and other people are destroying our cities, and the difference is that the stuff that goes on downtown Portland every day and night are bad. Much has been destroyed and people hurt. When the people of Oregon, we, the people of Oregon, don't like it, but most of us can get away from them by just staying away. It doesn't affect us nearly like what's going on at the Capitol and at the governor's office. The heavy hand of government and closed door policy is affecting every single person in Oregon. Why are the doors closed? We need to talk to officials. More talk and less division is needed. And the clear message from the Capitol to all of Oregonians is just shut up and go away. It's not the way to solve problems. And I have to ask the governing body, why are they afraid of law-abiding Oregonians? Why lock us out? We've gotten along for years. Those who decide to expel Mike Neerman are those who are continuing to the expelling of all Oregonians from the Capitol building. If anyone should remove Mike Neerman, it should be the people of his district. I say no to the closed doors at the Capitol. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony today. Up next, I have Kevin Davenport Rackham.
Rackham. Chair Holby and members of the committee, I'm here today as a resident of House District 23 to call for Representative Neerman's expulsion. I have called on Rep. Neerman to resign since news of his actions broke. Neerman endangered lawmakers.
Can you state your name for the record, please?
Sure.
Sorry, it's a
Evan Davenport Rackham.
Thank you.
I've called on Rep. Neerman to resign since news of his actions broke. Neerman endangered lawmakers and Capitol staff. He was caught on video letting armed protesters into the Capitol, and we now have video evidence he'd been planning to do so at least 5 days in advance. For years, Rep. Neerman has had ties to right-wing militias, and in the past employed a known member of the 3%er militia. Yamhill Commissioner Casey Kulla has pointed out that in the week before December 21st, lawmakers received emails from right-wing groups like People's Rights Network and Patriot Prayer about the protest, full of phrases like frontier justice and awash with blood. Given his familiarity with right-wing militias, I believe it's probable Rep. Neerman knew that opening that door would likely result in violence and planned for it anyway. Members of these groups have been arrested for their involvement in both the Capitol breach and the January 6th insurrection. Even before that, these groups engaged in hate crimes, white supremacist rhetoric, and domestic terrorism. Earlier today, Minority Leader Drazen told OPB there could have easily been a death as a result of Rep. Neerman's plan. Every member of the Republican House caucus has called for his resignation. This should not be a partisan issue. Despite this, I've continued to hear legislators say that expulsion is the wrong course of action. If this is not the time to expel a member of the legislature, when will it ever be? Since the 21st, Rep. Neerman has never shown any remorse for the danger he put the Capitol in. He's suggested the state police were more responsible for the breach than he was. He has continued to associate with Proud Boys and 3%ers. This is unacceptable conduct from an elected official. This is a clear breach of public trust. Rep. Neerman has been stripped of his committee assignments, has voted no or excused himself on almost every bill coming through the House, and he no longer effectively represents this district. He has demonstrated a fundamental disregard for democracy that makes him completely unfit to hold office. I believe the Oregon legislature has a duty to hold its members accountable. I urge you to vote yes on H.R. 3, and I yield my time.
Thank you for your testimony. And up next, Bernadette Hanson.
Good afternoon. My name is Bernadette Hanson. I live in McMinnville, and I'm a resident of House District 23. Thank you for this opportunity to testify on a very important and consequential matter that will affect the citizens of House District 23 and all Oregonians. I wish to start my testimony by going over the timelines of Representative Neerman's actions that lead us to this moment. It is important that we not forget Mr. Neerman's purposeful intention and actions that have placed him in this situation and all of us here today. In May of 2020, Mr. Neerman was one of several plaintiffs who sued the state of Oregon and Governor Kate Brown, seeking to end restrictions designed to curb the spread of the coronavirus within the state. The Oregon State Supreme Court upheld the governor's orders. In October of 2020, Mr. Neerman again sued the state and the governor. This time, the case was dismissed. And as we all know, that wasn't enough for Representative Neerman. On December 16th, 2020, a video was streamed live on YouTube and Facebook showing Mr. Neerman telling a group that he would open the door to let them into the closed Capitol building during the upcoming special session. He named this conspiracy, quote, Operation Hall Pass. 5 days later, with the Oregon legislature convened in an emergency one-day special session to discuss and pass 4 bills relating to coronavirus relief, Mr. Neerman followed through on his plan to let those same people into the Capitol building. Under US and Oregon law, a person involved in a conspiracy can be held responsible for each element of the conspiracy, regardless of their level of participation. Because of this, Mr. Neerman is as responsible for the bodily injuries inflicted on police and the damage to the building as if he had performed those acts himself. And on January 11th, House Leader Tina Kotek stripped Representative Neerman of his committee assignments. When a member of the legislature loses their committee assignments, they are prevented from effectively representing their constituents. Mr. Neerman knows what he did was wrong, and that his actions were illegal. And despite this, he conspired against the state and the people of Oregon. Regardless of where you sit politically, I think we can agree that his treasonous actions don't represent Oregon values. And he no longer represents me nor the citizens of House District 23. And to be completely honest, I have an increasing sense of disillusionment with government and government officials. I am losing faith. There are certain best principles that should guide our elected officials. Our elected officials are supposed to uphold the public trust.
Thank you for your testimony. I appreciate your testimony today. Up next, Ira Coelho Martinez.
Chair Hovey, members of the committee, for the record, my name is Ira Coelho Martinez, and I am testifying on behalf of Pineros y Campesinos Unidos del Noroeste, also known as PICUN, Oregon's Farm Worker Union. We strongly support House Resolution 3. It is clear from the evidence that the events of December 21st, 2020 were intentional and premeditated by Representative Neerman. To deliberately and knowingly engage in such dangerous behavior certainly qualifies as disorderly. We believe that this meets the standard as described in the Oregon Constitution for expulsion and that Rep. Neerman must face the consequences for what he has done. We must take steps to safeguard the Capitol. Ensuring that our state capitol is safe for everyone should always be bipartisan. And we want to thank legislators from both parties for calling on Rep. Neerman to resign or be expelled. Regardless of their political ideology or position of power, no one who actively plans with others to break the law and endanger people in our public buildings should escape consequences. As an organization representing Latinx Oregonians, we are deeply concerned about BIPOC Oregonians in the Capitol who often face violent threats. The group's Rep. Neerman let in have a history of espousing racist, xenophobic, and misogynistic views and use threats of violence to scare their political opponents. They were armed with guns and bear mace and called for bringing back tar and feather. One lawmaker described seeing a man with a bullhorn standing below her office shouting, "We're coming for you," as a group of people carrying semi-automatic weapons were looking into the office windows where she and colleagues were working that day. This type of behavior cannot be condoned. The decisions you make will send a statement to Oregonians of all backgrounds now and in the future. The expulsion is the only appropriate vote to make today. Rep. Neerman's actions were so callous, so dangerous, and so disorderly, he needs to be removed. Never before has a lawmaker blatantly violated the law in a premeditated manner with armed extremists. Thank you, members of the committee from both parties, for holding this special committee on House Resolution 3. Please listen to the voice of Oregonians and our Constitution and support H.R. 3.
Thank you for your testimony. Up next, Keely McWilliams. Or is it Kelly McWilliams?
It's Kelly McWilliams.
Kelly, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Everybody does that. Honorable Chair Hovey and members of the committee, my name is Kelly McWilliams, and I am the Executive Director of the Rural Engagement Project. We are a political action committee working on voter engagement in rural Oregon. We started out in House Districts 20 and 23 because of the rampant political extremism that is nestled into the hearts and minds of many here. We are fortunate to have received bipartisan support, which I am finding more and more rare in today's politically charged climate. I say all of that to preface what follows with this. We care deeply about democracy. We care about the rule of law, about peace and safety for all, about inclusion in the process of democracy, and in educating the electorate on policies, positions, and candidates that best represent the needs of rural Oregonians. I have spoken with many people over the last few months who are absolutely bewildered by the behavior of Representative Mike Neerman. His actions that we now know he named Operation Hall Pass directly defied lawful orders from the governor that were upheld by the courts. His actions constitute treason against the state and against the people he purports to represent. He betrayed the trust of his colleagues, those who work for him, all others who were in the building that day, and the Oregon people. As you are each aware, legislators take an oath to the federal and state constitutions. Like each of you, Mr. Neerman swore to faithfully discharge the duties of the office he holds as a state representative for House District 23. He traitorously turned his back on that oath when he conspired with others to give them entrance to a building in violation of the governor's orders, of the courts, and of the trust of his colleagues. What's more is that the people who entered the building were armed with chemical irritants and other items that could have been weaponized against those in the building with whom they disagreed. I have no doubt that they intended to create chaos and disorder on a day that was supposed to be dedicated to assisting their fellow countrymen in recovering from COVID-19. Not only should he be expelled, but there needs to be a deeper public accounting of those involved in his conspiracy. It would be untenable to discover after the fact that his successor was also involved, which would put us all back in the situation we're in now of trying to remove a malefactor from the halls of power. I am grateful that House Republicans have called on Neerman to resign, but that action does not go far enough. We must also uncover the identities of his co-conspirators so that none of them are permitted to choose his replacement or be appointed to that seat themselves. Neerman, who is currently serving as the vice chair of the Polk County Republican Party, should also be barred from having any influence over who is nominated or appointed as his successor. Regarding Neerman and his co-conspirators, the only answer is to put aside our political affiliations. When it comes to treason, there is no left or right, Democrat or Republican. The choice that best demonstrates love for Oregon and allegiance to the United States is to remove Neerman and ensure his successor was not someone also involved in his plot. Thank you for the opportunity to share my thoughts with you. On behalf of the Rural Engagement Project and our partners, volunteers, supporters, and board members, I urge you to stand up for Oregonians by dismissing Mr. Neerman from his position as the representative of House District 23. I hope that his expulsion is swift and that a principled, moral, reasonable Republican can be found to honorably represent the people of this wonderful district. Thank you for your time and have a great day.
Mr. Chair, you're muted.
Thank you. That concludes the written sign-up sheet for testifiers. I'm going to ask staff if there are remaining people that have registered to testify on the bill in the last few minutes.
Mr. Chair, there's somebody at the public testimony station at the Capitol, and he has the name of John Doe, and he is ready to testify.
Mr. John Doe, please present yourself, identify yourself for the record, and give us your testimony.
Good afternoon. I'm John Doe. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
All right. Thank you, Chairman, for letting me walk in at the kiosk and come in here and testify in person as best I could. I wish I could be in the building, in the room with you. I'm hiding my name today because I fear for my life, my children, my family. I fear for my livelihood. I fear for the safety of the people I go to church with, my neighbors, my friends. And I also fear for the safety and livelihood of the Republicans I'm involved with in Marion and Polk County. The reason I fear, as Mike Neerman said, we are afraid, is because Oregon has been in a constant state of disorder for over a year now. Mike Neerman is accused of disorderly conduct. I would argue that an act of disorderliness cannot come out of disorder. It has to come out of a pre-existing order, which is not apparent in Oregon. It is my opinion that Oregon has been thrown into disorder purposefully by people in the Democrat Party, as well as a contingent of Republicans that were upset about the previous presidential election. When I go to wave the American flag on the streets of several Oregon cities, I could be attacked with steel batons, bike locks, knives, guns. Same with my friends. This has been the condition in Oregon for over a year. Even if people hide in their homes, roving bands of racist lunatics are going through the streets to people's private homes and calling them out, whatever that means. They're verbally and in some cases physically assaulting homeowners, motorists that are driving through protests, completely happenstance, being stopped at gunpoint at the JFPK march recently, for one example, stopped at gunpoint, pulled out of their cars, robbed, beaten, hospitalized. Adam Hayner was kicked in the head hanging out at a 7-Eleven last year during a protest at night for no reason. Kicked in the head, hospitalized. I think he had brain damage. And these activities have been permitted and even tacitly endorsed by Democrats and even some Republicans who view this as some kind of social justice. This is complete disorder. This is not social justice. This is no kind of justice. This is a political persecution against Mike. He committed the crime of being in the wrong party. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony, Mr. Doe. And colleagues, I know that not all of our testimony has perhaps been considered germane to House Resolution 3, but I find it really difficult to rein in the germaneness of public testimony. So it is a difficult spot with that. And staff, are there any other testifiers that we are aware of?
No, no one else, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I just also want to comment that there is some questions that Representative Stark has submitted to Legislative Council that are on OLIS, and also the response from Legislative Council on his questions, all on OLIS. There are some other documents on OLIS as well. I believe there's the House Conduct Committee report is on OLIS, and a few other, Ms. Nordlund, I don't know for sure if there's any other. There's just a lot of other testimony on OLIS as well.
Yes, Mr. Chair and committee members, under the testimony tab is written comment from the general public, and under the heading of public testimony to display in committee are the exhibits that were submitted by Representative Holvey, and I'm double checking because I thought that's where Representative Stark's legal opinion was. Let me just double check. Yes. Under that same heading on OLIS, public testimony to display in committee, is the legislative opinion requested by Representative Stark.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Committee, I think it's at this point in the public hearing, I'm going to want to stand at ease for 5 to 10 minutes. For a moment while we discuss perhaps moving to a work session on House Resolution 3. And we will reconvene in 5 to 3 minutes. Representative Stark.
Thank you, Co-Chair Holvey. I wanted to clarify that the statement you just made as far as standing it is to discuss, I would assume that will be without a quorum present, so that will not be in violation. So I just clarify that for the record.
That is accurate. I would like to just confer with Representative Smith Warner and Representative Drazen at this point in the meeting. I just feel compelled to at least have that conversation before I move forward. So with that, the committee will stand at ease for 5 to 10 minutes. And I'll see if I can figure out how to have a conversation with 2 of my members. Thank you.
Well, there you have it. That was the public testimony part of the hearing. And of course, now they're going to go off stage for a few minutes to, I guess, talk about things and see what's going to go on next. That is one of the benefits of being in the room with legislators, being able to see them when they confer. And something that definitely has been missing from the virtual legislative experience. I've been in many, I think I've testified maybe 6 times this session, and each time there's a break for chatting about what's happening next. It would be nice to see what's going on there. But hey, what are you going to do? So it looked like there were 3 testimonials in favor of, opposed to this resolution or in favor of Mike Neerman retaining his position. And then all the rest for the hour of public testimony was opposing Mike Neerman and supporting HR 3. So I didn't hear much questioning from the committee, and it will be really interesting to see what happens when they come back, because they may just move it straight to the floor during their work session. All right, so should we look at one more time of what's going on out there? I don't think they're going to show us. So let's go ahead and roll that footage again. We always like that one. Ooh. No, this is not going to work. There we go. Oh, yes. I don't understand what the...
Good. This is State Representative Mike Neerman again. So a well-regulated militia, and I think that we hear the word militia today, and I think of guys in tactical gear and all that kind of stuff. I don't think that's what the founding fathers were talking about. What I think the founding fathers were talking about is they were talking about all of us, about you and me, about that not State Representative Mike Neerman, but just citizen Mike Neerman, but he knows how to operate his firearm like that. And because of that, that causes the Japanese in World War II to not want to invade America, because they know that there's too many guys out there like Mike Neerman and know how to operate a firearm. And if so, he's going to run into me. And he might run into me as a member of the regular Army, and he might run into me as a member of the Oregon National Guard, or he might run into me as just Mike Neerman protecting his own backyard. And so that's what I think that they were thinking of when they wrote well-regulated militia.
We have new information today about the December 21st protest in Salem involving an apparent security breach. This comes after historic events played out yesterday at the U.S. Capitol. Blake Allen has more.
A rainy January day in Oregon turning hectic as Oregon State Police attempted to control a protest at the state capitol. The group becoming agitated at police after they threatened to use crowd control munitions and refused to leave. Moments before police intervened, there were bangs from fireworks and people could be seen injured and pouring milk in their eyes.
Okay, Oregon State Police are now investigating Representative Neerman, and he could face charges and punishment from the legislature. Couple his behavior with the rhetoric from Oregon State Senator Dallas Hurd, who Wednesday attended this pro-Trump rally in Salem and called his Democratic colleagues enemies of the people. Because see, yesterday we talked about this guy. He's Oregon State Representative Mike Neerman, a Republican from Independence. And last month, when Oregon's very own pocket of violent and armed protesters stormed the halls of our capital, it turns out Rep. Neerman is the guy who opened the door and let him in.
Well, the Oregon legislature starts its new session next week, and there's already drama. Oregon State Representative Mike Neerman, seen here in surveillance cameras leaving the Capitol and letting violent rioters inside last month, has now been stripped of all of his committee assignments. House Speaker Tina Kotek has now called for his resignation. Kotek also fined him $2,000 to cover the costs of damage to the Capitol and will file a formal conduct complaint for, quote, creating a hostile work environment. Representative Neerman will not have badge access to the Capitol and will have to provide 24 hours notice each time he wants to come.
I and my men will seep into your homes, your towns, your public offices. There is nothing you can do. There is nothing you can do. There is nothing you can do. I hate this part.
I want to tell you that something truly shocking happened at the Oregon legislature. A man who is a representative of the people let some of those people into a state capitol building which is owned by those people.
There's going to be a fight here.
Thanks, and I'm Representative Mike Neerman from Independent. So, yeah, I think there are some problems with gun laws. Again, we're trying to find a happy medium here, where we respect the rights of law-abiding people to exercise their rights to own arms, and on the other hand, we want to keep arms out of the hands of felons and mentally ill people. We have to find a balance there, and that's what we're trying to do here, and that's what we try to do in the legislature. So, so there's room for disagreement and argument on that.
Shots and ready.
I want to tell you that something truly shocking happened at the Oregon legislature. But at the Oregon legislature, this is the shocking thing that happened. Oregon state lawmaker Mike Neerman, are you going to quit?
I think so. I don't know that for sure.
I don't know that for sure. I don't know that for sure. I don't know that for sure.
I don't know that for sure. I don't know that for sure.
I don't know that for sure. I don't know that for sure. I don't know that for sure.
I don't know that for sure.
They all lived in the 16th century.
They're phony. They're phony. They're phony.
What things happened within the building that were so bad?
Let us in! 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 Let us in!
Was somebody killed? Was there a murder we didn't hear about? What things happened within the building that were so bad? What terrible calamities happened within that building after that door opened?
Let us in! 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 Let us in!
Mike, the liberals want you to resign your office. I don't think you've done anything wrong. And I'm going to work around that hole. What terrible calamities happened within that building? Was there property destruction like we saw some of at the U.S. Capitol? Was there a murder we didn't hear about? Was somebody killed? What things happened within the building that were so bad? What terrible calamities happened within that building?
Mandatory training on workplace safety, vaccine mandates, and they want to take away your guns. It's all political. Mandatory training on workplace safety, vaccine mandates, and they want to take away your guns. Harassment, mandatory training on workplace safety, vaccine mandates, and they want to take away your guns. All the power. The Democrats have all the power. This is all 100% political.
I and my men will seep into your homes. I and my men will seep into your homes, your public towns, your public offices.
The cards are stacked against them. Was there property destruction like we saw some of at the U.S. Capitol?
I think so. Somebody kicked a glass door and broke it.
Was somebody assaulted?
And I saw that a police officer was sprayed with bear mace. And
That's
if that
bad.
happened, that's unfortunate. Yeah. Fortunate. Yeah. Unfortunate. Yeah. Fortunate. Yeah. Unfortunate. Yeah. Fortunate. Yeah. Unfortunate. Yeah.
Was the door kicked from outside the building by people outside the building or kicked by somebody inside the building? Because there is a difference there, right?
And it looked to me, so again, I don't know these things. I just, whatever I read in the media, it looked like the door was kicked from the outside. So it wasn't that somebody was let in and kicked the door, but I don't know that for sure.
Hey, who here's a 3%er? All right, we got quite a few of those. Who here's an oath keeper? All right, good. Glad to see it. Glad to see you guys here.
Was the door kicked from outside the building by people outside the building or kicked by somebody inside the building? Because there is a difference there, right?
Somebody kicked a glass door and broke it, so whatever. What do you suppose that does for me? She's all worried about safety. It's not about safety. It's they don't want you in the building. What do you suppose that does for me? That imperils my ability to get a fair trial on that. What do you suppose that does for me? Little old Mike Neerman, who'd never heard a fly. Have you ever?
(2021), and whereas Rule 3.07 is among the rules adopted by the House of Representatives during its organizational session, and whereas Rule 3.07 was also in effect for the 3 special sessions conducted in 2020, including the special session held on December 21st, 2020, and whereas Rule 3.07 establishes safety and entrance protocols for the state capitol building, and whereas these safety and entrance protocols were adopted by the House of Representatives to combat a novel coronavirus pandemic that, as of the date of this resolution, has taken the lives of more than 2,600 Oregonians and more than 590,000 Americans, and that has sickened millions, and where 3.07 and other legislative rules limit entry to the Capitol to authorized personnel in order to minimize the risk of transmission of the virus. And whereas the Legislative Assembly was scheduled to convene in special session on December 21st, 2020, and whereas on December 16th, 2020, a video was posted on an online website that shows Representative Mike Neerman describing a scenario where demonstrators could break into the Capitol and obtain unauthorized access to the Capitol with the assistance from someone already inside the Capitol. And whereas in describing this scenario, Representative Neerman supplied a cell phone number and instructions on where to stand and what to text in order to obtain entrance to the Capitol. And whereas the cell number Representative Neerman supplied was his own. And whereas on December 20th, 2020, a group named Patriot Prayer posted a sign on its Twitter account calling for a demonstration at the Capitol the next day and stating, in relevant part, "We need to have 1,000 people there and make our voices heard. Non-permitted flash mob." And whereas on December 21st, 2020, Capitol security camera video footage shows Representative Neerman opening a locked exterior door of the Capitol while the House was in session and exiting the Capitol. And whereas the security camera video footage shows that when Representative Neerman exited, he pushed the door open and stepped around a demonstrator who rushed past him into the building, followed closely by a second demonstrator who held the door open for numerous other demonstrators who also rushed in. And whereas none of the demonstrators were authorized personnel under House Rule 3.07, and therefore the demonstrator's breach of the doorway and occupancy of the Capitol was a violation of House Rule 3.07, and whereas the demonstrators were heard chanting "enemies of the state" and "arrest Kate Brown" inside the building, and whereas law enforcement officers attempted to push the demonstrators out of the Capitol, but demonstrators repeatedly dispersed chemical irritants against the officers before officers were able to regain control and repel the demonstrators. And whereas demonstrators damaged Capitol property prior to and during the confrontation with law enforcement, and whereas authorized personnel present in the Capitol described the events as intense and stressful, terrifying, and distressing, and whereas law enforcement officers were visibly injured and shaken due to the demonstrators' actions, and whereas an independent investigator unaffiliated with the legislative branch conducted an investigation of the conduct of Representative Neerman on December 21st, 2020, and whereas the investigator reviewed security camera video footage and other relevant documents, interviewed 8 impacted parties, and sought to interview Representative Neerman, who declined to be interviewed, and whereas the independent investigator determined that it is more likely than not that Representative Neerman intentionally aided demonstrators in breaching Capitol security and gaining unauthorized access to the Capitol, leading to injury and property destruction, and whereas Representative Neerman was arraigned on 2 misdemeanor charges stemming from his actions on December 21st, 2020, and whereas the criminal prosecution against Representative Neerman is ongoing, and whereas Article 4, Section 15 of the Oregon Constitution vests the House of Representatives with the authority to determine whether the conduct of a representative is disorderly behavior and to punish a representative for disorderly behavior. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the House of Representatives of the State of Oregon that we, the members of the House of Representatives of the 81st Legislative Assembly, find that Representative Mike Neerman has engaged in disorderly behavior within the meaning of Article 4, Section 15 of the Oregon Constitution, and be it further resolved that with the concurrence of 2/3 of the members of the House of Representatives, Representative Neerman be expelled from the House of Representatives, and that the Representative Neerman seat be considered vacant. Representative Smith Warner, could I have a motion, please?
Certainly, Mr. Chair. Chair Holby, I move the committee find that Representative Mike Neerman engaged in disorderly behavior within the meaning of Article 4, Section 15 of the Oregon Constitution, and that House Resolution 3 be moved to the floor with a be adopted recommendation.
Representative Smith Warner moves that the committee find that Representative Mike Neerman engaged in disorderly behavior within the meaning of Article 4, Section 15 of the Oregon Constitution, and that House Resolution 3 be moved to the floor with a be adopted recommendation. Discussion. Representative Stark.
Thank you, Chair Holby. You made reference in the public hearing about the legal questions or legal clarifications that I asked. I just wanted to comment on those again briefly, that you can find those under today's calendar, under the committee, under meeting materials as well. And to me, the preservation of the historical record is very important. And so I thought there were some questions that we needed to clarify. I'm not going to take the time for us to talk through all those questions. And I understand that one legal opinion doesn't equal everyone's legal opinion. A few of the things, just the nature of those questions were constitutionality of the physical building being closed versus access and open to the public. The authority of the speaker and the president to close the physical building, questions about what are the role of the legislature in disciplining members, and even another question on as to whether or not Representative Neerman could run for office again and potentially even be reappointed to the current seat if he were expelled. So that's the nature of some of the questions if people are interested in seeing some of those things.
Thank you, Representative Stark, and I do appreciate your questions and getting those out in advance so we could have those on OLS as well as the responses. I really do appreciate that because I think people are interested in the answers to those questions. and the questions themselves. So thank you very much. Further discussion, please. Representative Salinas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I want to thank all of the committees, all the committee members here today. I know it is a challenging task that we have before us. But before I cast my vote, I do want to make a couple of points. First, I want to reemphasize why we were in the Capitol on December 21st. It was the worst point of the pandemic, and we were regularly seeing well over 1,000 cases and double-digit death totals each day from the coronavirus. We were months away from vaccines being widely available, and we needed strong public health measures in place, which is why the Capitol was closed to the public. But at the same time, we had to act given the scale of the crisis. We had to act legislatively. Thousands were facing down the risk of eviction at the end of the year. Restaurants desperately needed aid during the worst weather months of the year when indoor dining wasn't an option any longer. And we needed to continue funding critical pandemic-related programs to support Oregonians and provide more support for Oregonians impacted by the Labor Day wildfires. And while many of us were working across the aisle to deliver on relief for Oregonians who were most impacted by the pandemic and wildfires, it really was upsetting to learn that Representative Neerman was planning and coordinating an attack on our Capitol. He not only put our safety in jeopardy, he put all of this work to help Oregonians at risk. The trauma of that day will not leave with Representative Neerman, especially for, I know, many of our BIPOC legislators and staff in the Capitol. Representative Neerman has refused the calls of this entire body to resign, and now I believe expulsion is the only reasonable course of action. So I will certainly be a yes on House Resolution 3. Thank you.
Further discussion, Representative Smith Warner. And you are on mute, Representative Smith Warner.
Darn it. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, colleagues, for your work in this committee today. It's really both a historic and deeply sad day. I believe that what we've heard today in the public hearing, the presentation of the facts really speak for themselves, that this was indeed a coordinated and intentional attack on the Capitol is what it felt like. And I have to say that Representative Neerman hiding behind the Constitution to justify this reckless and dangerous actions, it was that was really deeply upsetting to me as an individual who was here that day, and just really the loss of humanity in not seeing the impact that his actions could have had. I really do believe that is a demonstration of the definition of reckless behavior. So I will be voting yes on this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Bonham.
Thank you, Chair Hovey. I'll echo the sentiments of not wanting to be here under this consideration here today. I look back at the last year and a few months since COVID entered our lives and the response that Oregon had to it. And I believe that what Mike Neerman did on the day of December 21st was wrong. First and foremost, let me just say that. And as someone that pointed to events in Portland that were taking place, rioting, looting, destruction of property, I said all of that was wrong. I called for a lawful response to unlawful acts every time I've seen them. And I think that's been consistent throughout our caucus. And one of the frustrations that I continue to hear from my constituents is that those calls have gone unanswered, except for when it deals with a Republican, except for when it's a conservative being held accountable. And so it is with great difficulty that I have heard in this public hearing process, that we have attributed any intent by Representative Neerman to allow armed protesters into the building, violent protesters into the building. I've gotten to know Mike pretty well over the last 4 years. I've served in the caucus with him. He's a bright intellectual mind that challenges my thought process every day we meet. I appreciate Mike Neerman's perspective that he brings to policy consideration. And when Mike Neerman says that he wanted to let people into the building to engage in the process, I believe that's what he wanted to do. There was a great error in judgment that day. Let me be quick to pivot to that. I saw the people outside. Nobody should have opened a door to the people that were here that day. If Mike Neerman believed that he wanted to let people into the building to participate in civil discourse, unfortunately for Rep. Neerman, the people that were outside that day were not those people. We've seen those people plenty of time come to the Capitol steps, stand across the courtyard from us and raise their voices and wave their signs. And yet those weren't the people that were here that day. And so I can certainly condemn the decision that he made that day and support this resolution. My problem is that there is a context to this entire conversation that still is really going unanswered in our response to what happened in Portland. And for many, many of my constituents, their desire to have a sense of justice for what they saw as an injustice. And they still see the closed Capitol as an injustice, and they still want access to the public process. I did appreciate Janice Dysinger coming forward today to testify, because I have loved her testimony in rules, and I have appreciated that despite the fact that the building has been closed, she has continued to engage with very thoughtful comments on various and sundry topics, including voting in Oregon and campaign finance reform. So there has been a process that's moved forward that we have tried to make the best of this terrible situation. But again, I do struggle with taking it a step further to ascribe that Mike Neerman had intent to do harm to people. Absolutely terrible judgment that day to open that door. But again, that's where I've struggled. All that said, I will be supporting this motion.
Further discussion? Representative Smith Warner? No. Further discussion? No. Committee, thank you for your participation in this hearing and work session. And as I said in my opening remarks, the gravity of this situation cannot be overstated. I know that today we're upholding our duty to protect the integrity of the legislature and the safety of those who work and serve in this building. The framers of the Oregon Constitution gave us the tool situations such as this in Article 4, Section 15. We're exercising that authority in a way that I believe fits squarely within what the framers envisioned. The Oregon Constitution also grants the power to the branch to determine rules around how it will convene. Those rules for this session are contained in House Rule 3.07, as described earlier, similar to what was in place for the special sessions last year. These rules were adopted in response to a global pandemic, and if Representative Neerman or anyone else believes that they have a legal case for objecting to these rules, they could have filed a legal challenge. They did not. Instead, they attempted to violently storm the Capitol to occupy it, and they received premeditated and coordinated help from Representative Neerman. Representative Neerman is facing 2 criminal charges related to his actions, and any common interpretations of his actions by the average person, I believe, would call this egregious, disorderly behavior. I looked at definitions of disorderly, in the Oxford languages, which may have been around when the framers wrote the Constitution. Interestingly, one of the definitions was involving or contributing to a breakdown of peaceful and law-abiding behavior. Merriam-Webster definition also lists causing a problem, especially in a public place, by making a lot of noise, behaving violently, etc. So, colleagues, I don't like a motion and having to do this. I know none of us do, but I believe it is our not just right, but our obligation to move this resolution forward. So with that, colleagues, I'm going to ask staff for a vote, please. A roll call vote. Thank you.
Representative Bonham,
Bonham votes aye.
Representative Drazen. Aye. Representative Salinas,
Salinas votes yes.
Representative Smith Warner,
Smith Warner votes aye.
Representative Stark,
Stark votes yes.
Chair Holby.
Holby votes aye. The motion passes, and House Resolution 3 will move to the floor. And as chair, I believe I will carry that on the floor. And colleagues, I sincerely appreciate the civility of our conversation. And I know it was not easy for any of us to go down this road. I do want to make a reminder for the public that written testimony for House Resolution 3 will continue to be accepted until 3 p.m. tomorrow. Instructions for submitting written comment are provided on the committee agenda. And colleagues, I believe that is it. Does staff have any other issues that we need to deal with before we close the work session and adjourn?
Nothing else, no.
With that, I will close the work session on House Resolution 3, and I will adjourn the House Special Committee on December 21st, 2020. Thank you very much.
Well, there you have it. We've got, oh no. Looks like it was a unanimous vote. And yeah, unanimous vote. And we're going to the House floor. Now, I've heard that it may go today yet. So let's see if anybody's even still around on the House floor. And maybe we'll get this all wrapped up today. 7:30 tonight. So we'll have a special vote tonight at 7:30. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll bring you that live too. So see you tonight, 7:30, and we'll see how the floor reacts to House Resolution 3 to expel Representative Neerman from the Oregon legislature. See you then.